Okay.
Yes, Corpus was very special for me because I came from a perfectly ordinary grammar school, and they didn't teach Latin, and this was during the war, and so the masters were not very good, and so I had to have extra Latin tuition in order to get into the college. And I fully remember my audition here, which was taken in conjunction with the King's Organ Scholarship and the Clare Organ Scholarship, and it was Maurice Ord who was the director of music at King's at that time, and I can remember every minute of it. It was one of the most exciting experiences of my life, and having got onto the shortlist, one of the tests was to accompany King's choir in the chapel, and it was Mozart's Lacrimosa, and I didn't know it at all in those days, and I started playing it, and after 2 or 4 bars the sound of the choir came over the top of the organ loft, and that was one of the most magical moments of my life, if it hadn't been so important. And then finally Boris Ord in his rooms came to see us 5 candidates, and he said, I'm giving the King's Organ Scholarship to Mr. Popplewell, the Clare Organ Scholarship to Mr. Brimer, and I just couldn't stand the tension anymore, so I looked out at the window, and the Corpus Organ Scholarship to Mr. Bertalot. I thought, oh. And that, of course, was one of the most wonderful moments of my life. And coming here, it more than lived up to the thrill of being here and having supervisions with Boris Ord and Professor Patrick Hadley. We had Billy Graham here for the first term when I played for his mission in Great St Mary's. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh came, and that was only 2 years after the coronation. And I saw Albert Schweitzer get an honorary doctorate, so I thought, if that's happening in my first term, I may as well stay.
Thank you very much. And
well, what do you think you should support Corpus now?
yeah, why did you choose to support Corpus?
Corpus is one of the friendliest colleges in Cambridge, and as I said, when I came here, the tuition was entirely free. The government gave all the tuition fees, and I was given the £100 scholarship, which in these days would be over £2,000 a year, from which I was able to hire a grand piano in my room, which was I3, which now houses the archives of the college. And so, because I was able to have my education here free, which is not the case these days, I thought I would very much like to help students now and the students coming to enjoy something of what I enjoyed, and so I have decided to give my house to the college, and I hope to live a long time so that it will be worth a lot of money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know, something else? We don't want to abuse of your time.
No, not at all.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you studied when you were here. And
yes.
Or some anecdote about
Yes.
when you were here or something. Oops.
Yes, it was my privilege here to study music, as I said, with Boris Ord at King's College and Dr. Patrick Hadley at Key's. And we had, as you have these days, you have choral scholars, and I can remember particularly 4 choral scholars of my day. One, Michael Tubbs, who was the director of music of the Royal Shakespeare Company. Another one who became an executive of ICI in Australia. A third who became a missionary in Nigeria, which was wonderful. And a third who became the dean of an English cathedral. And so to mix with people like that day in and day out was an enormous privilege. And I learned so much, and it was because of Corpus, and particularly Geoffrey Styler, who was the precentor here, when I applied for the post of organist of St Matthew's, Northampton, which was in those days the leading musical and artistic church in the country, with a painting by Graham Sutherland and the statue by Henry Moore, and Benjamin Britten had written music for it, so I applied for that, and it was Geoffrey Styler who wrote to the rector there, and it was through what he said that I got the job. And it wasn't until only a very few years ago that I learned that Geoffrey Styler also wrote to the Dean of Blackburn Cathedral when I applied for that, and it was through what he said that I got the job there, and so I owe Corpus more than I can ever repay, and may the same be true of all undergraduates who come here.
Thank you very much.
That's lovely.
Thank you
So
so much.
natural. No, very good.
Speak very well to camera.
Exactly.
Well, I put on my lecture mode.